Hello and welcome everyone to Sell More in 2019, using Treasury management to differentiate and deepen client relationships. Today is January 30th of 2019, but this video will be rebroadcast throughout the year. So hopefully this is for you, relationship managers, business development officers, lenders, and branch professionals. So hopefully you all out there in the banking world will get some value out of this throughout the year. And I am pleased and honored to introduce my good friend and colleague, Ginger Giddin, who is on the line with us. Ginger, do you want to say a few words about your background and experience?
Hi, good afternoon. I have over 25 years of treasury management experience. I did begin my banking career in commercial credit underwriting, which has enabled me to really bridge and speak the language of relationship managers while understanding the inherent operational risk of treasury services. I've known Laurel for a very long time, and I'm excited to be here today. I'd
Thank
like
you,
to
Ginger. And that's why
share
she's
is
so
that
amazing, is
I've
that she
seen.
has this incredible and profound wealth of experience and knowledge. So with that, we're going to move forward. And thanks again for joining us. All right, well, and here we are. I should have had this slide up. There's beautiful Ginger, and there's me as we will proceed through the slides. You can just envision Ginger speaking as she verbalizes her incredible wealth of knowledge. And here we go. So on the agenda today, as you can probably imagine, we're going to talk about some of the goals inherent in a banker's world, particularly those of you who, again, are in those particular roles of business development officer, commercial lender, loan officer. You have many names, you come by many names, and even for those of you out there in the branch banking world who are leading these relationships with your clients as well. This is for all of you, and we're here to address this equally for our audience. We will be, the goal of today is to understand treasury management and how that can complement your offering as you move forward, and certainly how it can differentiate yourself and your bank as a trusted advisor. And lastly, we're going to ask that you open your mind and that you perhaps perform a mindset shift, and that will allow you to sell more in 2019. So this is, and we're going to discuss how that will affect you. So a mindset shift for you, for your bank, and what that looks like for your clients as well. So again, we're going to be addressing from a treasury management professional and from their banking relationship managers, as well as their business partners. Basically, we're going to look at how to have thinking bigger. And what that just means is taking yourself out of your role on a day-to-day basis and looking down and saying, what else can I be doing that will impact my portfolio and my client relationships going forward, and certainly my internal relationships as well. Also, and we will be looking at how that actually affects your clients and what they and their perspective on what you bring to them. So if you look very closely and think about what are your goals today, or what are you goaled on, if we can use that as a verb. Probably it's some combination of what we have here on the screen. Sometimes it's, the number of products that you sell, the number of loans that you close. Is it perhaps your incremental revenue? Or maybe it's just the number of client calls that you go on a weekly or monthly basis or quarterly basis.
I think depending upon
Is it your
senior
portfolio
management or
growth, how you've
leadership's
grown your
perspective.
portfolio over time from, the time that you joined your bank to now, and certainly as it pertains to this particular year? Is it the penetration that you've been able to establish with a particular client or clients? And that just basically means that you have deepened those client relationships such that they have now purchased several different products or services from you and are using services across different divisions and your products at your bank. Client satisfaction is a great metric as well. Hopefully it comprises some sort of your performance goals as well, with regard to how your clients feel about how you're servicing them. And then cross-selling basically just means that you are responsible, to the extent that you are, also introducing and selling products from other banking divisions at your bank. And also, I just want you to think about, it's great to have goals, and, not everybody does. Some treasury management divisions are so new that some of you may not have established what those goals look like yet. But these are some of the things that we hear as we go out and, kind of across the country and talk to people like yourselves. But, I'd like you to also think about who's holding you accountable to these goals, and how is your progress being recorded? Are you using, for example, some type of a sales management or enterprise system that you're using to track your services and the performance that you have with your clients? And also, how is your success being rewarded? And what does that look like? And does it favor your selling certain solutions over others? Ginger, I don't know if you have anything to add to this particular slide. Just let me know. Hmm. Okay. Okay. That's a really, really good point. Absolutely. And absolutely things evolve. And, it may even be that you don't have many of these yet, but that some of these may be implemented over time as well. And that actually brings me perfectly into the next point here, Ginger. And that really says, okay, so we just talked about what those goals are and potentially how your managers are measuring your success. But if you think about, again, remember my ask at the beginning of today's
One of my
webinar
clients once
was to
said
think a
to
little bit
me
bigger. And
that
if
they
what would it
consider
look
me
like
their
to
best
say
banker.
that, what if your goal
And the
was
reason for
bank
that
profitability?
is that I was
That would
one. I
require you
have
to do
been,
a little bit
I
more
don't.
thinking, wouldn't it? Right?
Always look
Because
at a
now you're thinking
situation
about
from
not
how
only
does it
how,
affect me?
how is the bank reducing cost,
And it
but
is,
certainly,
I'm the first
over
person they
time, what type
call,
of revenue
even
am
though
I
I'm in
bringing
that to
in?
provide
And
a
what does that look
service.
like
And the reason I
relative
do
to how
that
the bank has
is
done
that when
traditionally?
another relationship,
So
another banking
that
relationship goes
also puts
awry,
you in a position of
I will be the
authority
person that they
and
call. And I
contributing to
think
those
that's the
goals. And it
ultimate
makes
goal
you
for
maybe feel a
everyone
little
is
bit better and
it's
give you some
I think
visibility
our goals
into
are
why
a
your bank
mixture
hired
of
you.
entrepreneurship,
Certainly,
of
one of
client
these points here
focus,
is
but
that
patience
you
and
were hired for a
tenacity
reason,
because we're
and
being
you
patient
are
so
a
that we
brand
gain those
representative of that
opportunities.
bank.
And
So to some
what
extent,
I see with my peers of
the bank's
similar
success is
mindset
very much
is
tied into
every
your
year we are
success as well.
successful because there is
So,
a client
again, we
who
did
becomes
say that
dissatisfied with their
at
current
some
provider
point in
and
the
we
last
expand
slide
our
that,
relationship or we gain a new
you
relationship.
have increased your portfolio.
Yes,
But,
I agree
if you
with
look
you.
at it in terms of deepening the client relationship versus selling them more products, that again is a more broad view of what you're doing and gives you a better perspective on what you can bring to your clients and to your bank. Highest, again, certainly being measured for how your client views you is a part of your success. But when you start to think about it in terms of their satisfaction and their experience, client experience is a term that gets thrown around a lot these days, but I can't speak highly enough for when you engage with a client at a deeper level and you have deeply broadened that relationship as per the bullet above, your experience and your client's experience with them has become much more rich, and they will start to view you as a partner. So, that to me is very important. And then they ultimately may become a referral base for you. So such that, if your client knows other businesses like themselves, or has, if you happen to be working in a particular geographic area, if they have friends and neighbors and others who are in their neighborhood or their town or their region, they might be more apt to suggest to that person that they speak with you about, potentially doing business. Ginger, I certainly invite you to weigh in on any of these at any time. And trusted advisor status, which we're going to actually talk about what that definition is shortly. That just basically is something over and above being viewed as a vendor or a banker. It's now you've become a partner to that client. And it just is, again, a richer version of a salesperson. And then, when you look internally at yourself, thinking about yourself being promoted, I mean, you're not going to be in your one position forever. You may not potentially be at your bank forever. If you start to look at how you are viewed externally, especially by your clients, and how you've contributed to your bank's success, you can start to think about your career advancement and being able to map those types of experiences to your next role. And some of that isn't necessarily working in a traditional working environment, right? Another way to be successful is to promote yourself outside of your work through thought leadership, which you may potentially want to engage in. I'm sure many of you are members of your could be a chamber of commerce, it could be an industry group, it could be some other way to get in front of your potential constituents and your potential clients. Is a great way to become the subject matter expert that people want to come to instead of you going to them. And if you have achieved that subject matter expertise or thought leadership status in your community, and that community could be nationwide, by the way, you now, again, don't have to go out and seek clients. They will start coming to you. And then, if you start to think about things again at a higher level, and you start to think about your personal success, as we just mentioned, your client success, how can you make your clients successful, not just today, but what are they looking to be, or how are they looking to grow over the next 1, 2, 3, 5 years? And then again, having a good feel for what your bank views as success as well. Ginger, I know you've got some comments here. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. That is so great. And that's why I have Ginger here today, because truly she is the model for all of these things, by the way. And as we continue to move through the session today, we're going to learn more about how she approaches her client relationships as well. And certainly, again, is a model of success. Thanks,
I
Ginger.
think that
So what
success
is the
becomes
difference
a natural
between the
byproduct
goals that we
of
originally talked
all of
about
these
and just
focuses.
exactly what we said? Again, it's having visibility that's long term, not short term. It's the having an approach of being a big thinker, that someone that's able, willing, and able, and makes the time. By the way, you have to schedule this sometimes. Maybe it's on every Friday afternoon. Taking yourself out of your role and thinking bigger, thinking about how can I be doing this differently, thinking about how can I approach my clients differently. And again, just broadening your view and perspective. Having a comprehensive instead of a siloed approach. We use that term siloed. I don't really like it all that much. It's basically, it just means that you're now thinking about the whole instead of just my one purview. And it blends right into that next bullet where it's the team versus I, just like Ginger just said. It's how can I help others to achieve success instead of just thinking personally about yourself. Not that I don't want you to think about yourself, because career advancement is very much a piece of this as well. But that comprehensive view is thinking about, I'm not just a loan officer, or I'm not just someone who works in a branch and is not able to see the big picture, but rather I have this knowledge, or I certainly want to gain an understanding such that I can start to offer things on a more comprehensive level. It's a great point. So true. Thank you. And then, leadership. There is a strong leadership correlation in all of this. And, when you think about the leaders that you know and that would like to model yourself as, what are the key criteria that those people have? I mean, great communication skills, but they're also able to think about things at a very strategic or a much higher level. So that's again where we're going to bring you to today. So this just gives you a quick snapshot of, there is a huge shift between selling a product, and, you can liken that to selling cars or selling refrigerators or anything else, to being a trusted advisor. When you think about, and this is true for the best car salesmen and salespeople as well, and the best appliance salespeople as well, when you can walk into a place, or that person that you call on to help you to make a particular purchase or to help you, you are looking for someone that is trusted, credible, expert. How do you learn those things? Well, a lot of times it's over time, but sometimes, there are people who just, in a shorter term sale, like a car or something like a consumer product, you look for people that are going to give you things that are factual and educate you instead of just trying to, give you the runaround. So and over time in these, highly complex solutions environments, having that relationship focus and someone that looks more like a partner than a vendor is so important. And here we are back to leadership. You need to value and measure success over time, because there's that saying about what gets measured gets done. It's very true, but again, that does not incorporate what those particular goals are. So you need to set the right goals, as we discussed earlier. Being a strong communicator is very important. And then these last two here, I highlighted them for a reason. Solves business challenges instead of, again, selling products. Think about that. That's a big difference. And then offering comprehensive solutions. So again, that brings that whole piece back to, I'm not short-sighted. I don't have my blinders on. I can only sell a loan or a particular product today. It's, what can I do for you as a bank? What can I bring to you as a bank, as my bank representative? So I like to give put this slide up as well, because I feel like
we are hearing a lot about
some
how
of us don't
clients
know that we're
want
doing
and
it,
desire
but
self-service. They want to go
the way that
online,
you
select the
position
services.
yourself and your
They want
bank
to
is very
look
important.
at the pricing that would
And
be applicable to
it
them
cannot be stressed
online.
enough
However,
that
what we are
differentiating
seeing
based on
is that
price
this is
is never
still
the
a
best
human
strategy.
contact world.
So,
They don't fully
and what does that look
understand
like?
what they
Well,
may
it
be
could be
wanting,
when you send along
and
a
it
proposal and it
requires
really
that
only includes
human
things
touch
like how
of
much
sitting
it
down, really
costs or a
talking
rate
through their
sheet.
situation
Um,
to help them get there.
what
And that's where service and
the
experience
monthly
is
cost
most
is to your
valued.
company.
Because
That is
although
not the
we have
best way
clients
to
who will say
differentiate,
they
because
know
guess what?
exactly what they
There's
need and
always
they
going to
know
be
exactly
someone
what
that's
they
going to offer
want,
something cheaper
and then they're
tomorrow, or
surprised
maybe not
to hear
tomorrow, but
that
maybe
there's a new
next
feature
year.
functionality that they
And
did
just
not
like
know had
Ginger
been
said,
developed. So I
once
absolutely agree
someone
with you.
becomes dissatisfied, they're
Guys,
going to
unless
put
we
their
are
services out to
looking
bid,
simply to build
and it
and
could
we're
be that
not
you're out
really
of a job,
focused on
because that's
keeping
the only
clients,
thing you have
or we
going
want to
for
keep
you
them because of price,
potentially,
because
is
we
that
want to make
your
or
price
put a
was
name for
cheaper than the
ourselves,
next guy.
I don't think it's the way
Well,
to
another
lead.
way that is
Product,
potential for
so many of our
positioning yourself
services
is through
are
product.
considered
And
commodities,
I think that's
but we
okay.
need
I
to
think it's okay
have
to have great products. But the
differentiators
downside there
that
is that
require that human contact to
potentially your
discuss, and
products
thereby
don't look
leads
very
into really
different than
service and
the next
experience
person
is
or at the
the
next bank.
is the
And in
strongest
fact,
way to
you may be
to
even
really be
using on
successful.
the
The
back end
client's
the same
successful,
system
our
that
firm is
your
successful,
competitor
and
is
we
using.
individually are
So you
successful.
want to be very careful
At
about just differentiating based on products as well. The best way, as it says here, to differentiate and to position yourself as a banker, a trusted advisor, is to truly, you know, sell yourself. I am an expert. Be like Ginger. Ginger is an expert, and it's not the product that she sells in any respect. It's a solution, and even better, it's a solution that has her included in that solution. I can guarantee you that exactly what she just said, her clients are able to pick up the phone, and when something goes wrong or something goes very right, they pick up the phone and they call Ginger. And that is the best part of what they bought into as as a client. So I can't pitch this enough, that you are the best part of the solution. Ginger? Right, 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 right. Absolutely, 100%. Thank you. Thank you so much. So we've gotten to the crux of the presentation here. So why treasury management can help you sell more.
I
in
really like
2019 and
your
beyond,
bullet point
certainly.
talking about helping
Um,
clients with
I like
working
to lead
capital
with, hey,
because
every
in their
business that's
minds,
in business needs
if
it. Every
the
business that's in
relationship between
business
Treasury
hopefully is
services
collecting
and
revenues,
lending is
and
symbiotic.
has money coming in.
If they can
And
borrow
then on the
money,
flip side of
but if they
that, there
don't
is
have the
always a cost
methods
of
to
goods sold
manage
or
their
cost of
inflows
services
and their
sold.
outflows,
So that
then
particular
they're
business, it has to pay
as a
something
business person,
out.
they're missing
And
a
in the
key
middle of that,
part of
at its very
managing their
core,
business.
how does
And
that
so it's
business find
working
out where they
together
stand on a
and
daily,
bringing all
weekly,
of that
monthly,
to
quarterly,
the
annual
client
basis?
so that they
But
have a
rather
full
they
suite
need
of services and
visibility
they're comfortable.
into their business. So,
Exactly,
and
Laurel.
and the finances behind their business. So, and then if that business is positive at the end of the day, then it launches them into a whole set of options with, does that person want to invest? Or if they're falling a little bit short in a particular period of time, that company or that business needs some way to automate some funding coming into the business to, again, bring that business back to whole, or to allow them to continue to do business and can perform their operations. So generally, and you heard me mention lending is certainly a core piece of that. But in the context of all of that, it's one piece. So treasury management truly kind of wraps all around the business itself, and certainly from a complementary perspective. We talked about it automating, loans and payments and things like that, and certainly sweeping funds if investing is part of that company's part of what that company wants to do. But it can also fund the deposit base of your bank. And certainly something that is, a huge issue today is mitigating risk. That is something that treasury management is probably, the best way to mitigate risk in a particular business, particularly as it comes to the financial side of things. And, just automation and being able to access things from anywhere, which is what every customer probably wants at this point, because we're all consumers and we have that technology and those options as a consumer. So as businesses and business owners, we want that same flexibility and sophistication. And then I will also say it really does build the brand on the commercial side of your bank. Without having the right mix of treasury management services or a commercial offering, treasury management can really support that and confirm your status as, truly a solutions provider for the commercial side of your bank. And it allows you to truly become that trusted advisor for your client. I don't know if you have any comments there, Ginger. Right. Yes, absolutely. Love it. Perfect. Thank you.
We are all
So
now beginning
in
to
it,
look for
outside of
balances
that as
because
well, and
balances
in
now have greater
addition, I
value.
know that
Well,
Ginger
those
is going to have
balances
some
accompany
feedback
Treasury
here.
services.
When
And
it
when
comes
looking
to
at,
adding treasury
a
management,
client's not going to
it
bring
it
a
adding
loan
value,
and just
truly it can
balances and then
actually
have
add
all their
revenue as well.
business
So there have been
transactions
some,
take place at another
from some
bank. Those
sources
balances
that
are going to
say
stay at
up
the
to,
other bank.
50,
So
up to
by
a
offering
50%
Treasury
increase
services,
in
it
client
is
relationship
the
revenues
loan,
by adding treasury
and
management
which has
to a
typically a
traditional
maturity
client
date, and there's
portfolio
Treasury
that just
services.
includes
And
loans and
coupled
other
with,
types of
going back to your
services.
comment about
Um,
stickiness,
Comprehensive bank
Treasury
solutions,
services
we keep
may be
mentioning
in a
that, and
lower
certainly as Ginger
initial
just echoed
revenue.
as well.
However, it's
Um,
annuity
a
revenue,
differentiator
and
for
the
your bank
average
as
Treasury
well. And
services
then
relationship
sophistication and
stays with
adding
their
roots
bank
to a lending
6
relationship.
to six and a
And
half
that
years.
really speaks
which
to the
means that
stickiness
enables us
opportunity,
and gives us time
because
to build
once
upon that
treasury management is
relationship
added to a
and
relationship,
really
it's much
have them,
harder for the
quote,
client
stick
to get
with
out of.
the bank.
Let's be realistic, but it also just adds this other layer of sophistication, so that that client has much more inroads into your bank. So it really cements those relationships as well. Go ahead, Ginger. Were you going to say something? Right. Yes. Right. Wow. I love it. I love it. No, thank you, Ginger. Those are fabulous points, and gave us even more specifics around these bullet points as well. And the other piece of that, once those deposits are in the bank, it's also a really inexpensive way that your bank can now offer loans based on that revenue. So, again, here again, it really provides this incredible value to the bank by offering treasury management services. And then, strong, in a low and rising interest rate environment, I mean, certainly interest rates are rising, as Ginger just alluded to. There's a strong business case for selling treasury management in this type of environment. So please do, consider treasury. If we haven't made the case so far, we're gonna keep chipping at it. Here we go. So this is just a pictorial of what the scope of treasury management really looks like. And again, that funding piece that many of you are, most probably familiar with at the bottom there, is one component of all of this. And again, treasury management is able to automate and make that a little bit more easy to do, really. So again, I'd spoken about earlier, every business that's in business is collecting money. And then on the right-hand side, that disbursement. This model is something that helps me to describe what treasury management is. And this is certainly something you can use with your clients, because it keeps you at a high enough level that your clients can certainly understand what that scope is and what that means. And then potentially, on the next slide, we're going to talk to you about what solutions look like that fit into those respective areas as well. But perhaps most importantly, what's surrounding this model are two things. And again, those that have become increasingly more important. Risk management is one of them. And that surrounds this entire model and scope of services as well. And then information reporting. It's not just the funds that are moving, right? We need information about those funds in order to have true visibility into what's going on in our businesses. So that again is, available through using and incorporating treasury management into your customer relationships. And you see those points down at the bottom. I mean, automation. I can guarantee you that that your client businesses are looking for, more versus less availability and automation and ability to move funds remotely or just having them move on their own without anyone having to intervene, or potentially in an environment where people might be reducing staff or changing or redeploying staff. Efficiencies, What business owner doesn't want efficiencies? Again, we talked about risk management, liquidity, as Ginger just mentioned earlier. That ability to keep that business, with the right level of cash on hand at any given time, given what's going on in the environment of the operation of that business, is so important. Productivity for your employees, having your really smart employees do the right type of work is very important, and having systems that enable them to do things easier, and just through their computer, instead of having to go to the bank for an hour, or 2 or 3 hours a week, is a huge savings of time and productivity. And then what business is also going to say that they don't want to save money? So that's something also that cannot be negated. And then accessibility and your ability to really lock down and particular types of services, and also to we mentioned mitigate risk, but also to make sure that your funds are accessible by the right people at the right times as well. So that security component is so key. Ginger, I don't know, we've now taken those boxes and blown them up a little bit. I didn't know if you wanted to take a quick moment to maybe talk through
I
what
think it's
this
important to
model looks
remember
like when
that
you
when we
overlay, I
look
guess is
at
the
our
word,
customers that are in various
the different
industries,
products and services
they are going to
into
need specific
this
services,
model.
but not
Is
all
there
of these
anything you would
services.
like to add
For
here?
example, a small retailer who has 3 locations, most of their cash inflows are going to be by credit card. So
Right,
they're not going to need a lockbox. They may not be using wires, but they
right.
may need ACH services if one store is in, say, Nebraska and another store is in Boston. So it's
Right.
important to first strive to understand how our clients or customers' business works, what type of inflows they have, and what type of outflows they typically have, because a technology company looks
Mm-hmm.
dramatically different than a retailer or a manufacturer.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and thank you for making that point. And it's a
Absolutely.
really good one. And because Ginger comes out of working, or does work with retail clients as well, I did overlay in this next slide exactly what that looks like, and what the names of what the types of things that, for example, on the collection side, what does a retailer, in terms of getting into that nomenclature that the business might use, what are they saying, or what are they calling these types of collections, for example, or their disbursements? Who are they paying? Who are they collecting from? And how are they collecting? Exactly what Ginger just said. Yes, lockbox absolutely not needed in a retail environment, maybe, but some of these other types of inflows certainly would be. Ginger, keep me honest here. Does this look something like what your clients would be looking at? Perfect. So, and as you think about that, what Ginger just said, the other thing that I hear sometimes, from, if you were to look at, one of Ginger's clients, or one of your clients, what they're looking for are for you to really be the expert for them, and your ability to speak their language, as I just said, and to be talking to them in their terms, and not pretend that your bank is the best at every single thing, because that's not true. And generally customers know that. But you want to tell them where you have strength and where your bank can lend inroads. And certainly much of that comes from you. You are the trusted advisor. You're the person who they are going to be looking to be the expert. You're the person who's going to be at the other end of the line when they call, just as Ginger mentioned earlier. You want to put your position, you want to position yourself in the best place possible by being the expert and understanding the nuances of the different industries and how they utilize treasury management, and certainly, the other products that your bank has to offer.
Well, I think
So
it's
as we
important to
think through
remember
all of
that
this,
there will
we
always
look
be
we
bankers
talked about
visiting
much
our
earlier,
clients.
talking about
And
what
those
a
other bankers
mindset
are
shift
going to
can
be
look
asking
like to a
questions, and
bank.
their initial
I think a
focus
lot of
will be on
times
loans.
we all
We
get
talk about loan
caught up in
pricing
our
or
daily
line of
lives
credit
and doing our
pricing.
business from day to day.
What's
Even
going
your
on in
bank,
the back of
even
our
the leaders at
client's
your bank.
mind
So you want
is,
to make sure that
okay, I could
um,
save X number of basis
that your
points
bank
by moving,
recognizes the
but
value
am I
that
willing
treasury
to go through
management
the
can
effort
bring.
of
And
opening a
if we
new
look at this
account,
slide, while
of
there are a lot of words on
notifying,
here,
of changing how
just in
funds come
general,
in?
just
Because that can take
differentiating
months
the
of
commercial
effort.
bank.
Do I
In
really
and of
want to
itself,
order
treasury
new
management can help to
checks?
do that
Do I want
and
to
bring
set up, and do
diversified,
I have
and
IT
Ginger
resources
hit it,
for testing
annuity-like fee
services
revenue
to move over
streams.
to the other
Because
bank?
again,
And
this
at the end
income
of the day,
is not
that's what,
short-term
to your
income.
earlier
It's going
point,
to continue to
makes
come
Treasury
in,
services
and
sticky.
as you grow the
If
business,
things are
come in
going well, the client
larger
really sits back and
quantities
says,
over
okay,
time.
I could save, say,
And
10
it,
basis
Ginger's
points,
example,
20
where the
basis
relationship
points,
lasts over
but
6
oh, I'd
years,
have to move all those
that's
Treasury
a long
services,
period of
or I would
time
want to move those
to
Treasury
know
services.
that
What
you've
type
got
of
this
heartache
business
is that
coming in
going to
from a
cause?
particular
And
client.
that's the
And that's what we mean
differentiator.
by annuity-like revenue. And
Well,
again,
and
it's
that's one of
fee
the things that
revenue,
has
not
changed over
based
the
on
last 10
interest,
years, quote
or on other
unquote, in the
things,
old days.
on
Um,
rates.
we can
It is
we can
truly, a
exact-
cost for
we can
service.
extend a
So,
line of credit, and let's say
and
it's
then, again,
$500,000,
hiring,
and
your
the
bank is
client didn't
hiring
use
you for
it.
a reason. And
We
you
might
need to
charge
think about
a
yourself as
non-utilization
representing the
fee,
brand of that
but it
bank.
wasn't very
Or
much money,
I like to think
and
of
it really
branding
didn't
as your
impact us as
promise
a
to your
bank. Well,
constituents.
the Federal
So
Reserve has
how are
changed their
you representing the
perspective,
bank
and
amongst your
and the
constituents? And you need
regulatory
to think about
agencies,
that.
and they have said, well, if
And
you're
again, we keep
extending
talking
a
about going
customer
back
a
to offering whole
$500,000 line
bank
of
or
credit,
comprehensive solutions
you
to
need to
deepen those
treat
client
it as
relationships.
though they are
So,
actually drawing on that
Ginger,
line
do you
of
have any
credit.
reaction to what I just said? And I'm going
And
to go ahead and
that
pick out a
totally
few of these
changes
bullets
our
also as
approach
you're speaking.
towards lines of credit, how they work, and what our customers are doing. Hence, we're always looking for that additional revenue. If we're going to extend a
Hmm.
line of credit and they're not going to use it, we definitely need alternate or ancillary services like Treasury
Right,
services to bolster our relationship, because the
right,
regulators are looking at those lines of credit as though they could be used a capital use.
right, right. Yes,
Well, it's it's that full breadth of services, because there's always going to be a need to move funds, say, to a 401k plan, to pension services, to some sort of IRB. And so that's where Treasury
absolutely.
Services comes in,
And,
because it can provide the information
we
reporting
talked
tool
about,
so that
these
all
annuity-like
those
revenue streams not being tied to
services
interest
or
rates. Um,
relationship factors
Ginger,
can
I'm going
be
to bring you
viewed by
back
the
on,
client,
loan
making it easier for
utilization,
them to manage
loan
and easier for
spreads.
them to have discussions with
You've been
us.
on both sides here. Can you talk to me about those
Um,
last two bullet points on the left there? Um, Loan spreads are subject to competitive pressure from the marketplace and from the Fed. And then loan utilization, you can give someone a loan, doesn't mean they're going to use it. And if they don't use it, you're not making any money on that particular loan. So, do you want to speak to that at all, Ginger? Right. We've been there. We've been there. Right. 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 Okay. Okay. Love it. Absolutely. And then before you go, Ginger, on this slide, we it was on that slide previously, and I can go back there if you need me to pull it back up. But there are other services that your bank offers that kind of roll up into Treasury. I mean, there are things like foreign exchange, and wealth management and other types of divisions or bank offerings that Treasury management can sort of help a client to utilize a little bit better. Can you speak to that? Right. Payroll. Yeah, and then it really feels like this is my bank. This is my bank, and here are all my services and all of the things that I have, and they have this visibility into it. I couldn't agree with that more. Thank you, Ginger, for clarifying. It's perfect.
I'd like to
Okay,
talk about
so
the
we're going to move on
approach.
to the
Treasury
mindset
management may lead
shift
or
for
save a
you.
relationship
Okay, you as
because,
the lender, the
again, it
business
is the
development officer, the
stickiness
branch
of
professional.
Treasury services
You know,
and it's the aha
what if you
moment that
started
a
to think
client
about things in
has
terms of
when they
offering
find out one,
offering
their
you know
bank can do X,
complementary bank
or
solutions,
two,
again, that
these
comprehensive
services are no longer
offering,
needed
to
because there's been
develop deeper,
technology
longer term relationships
improvement.
with clients through
And
sophisticated
that's
service
where
and
it is
daily
that full
systems
relationship
interfaces,
approach
which
that
is
Treasury
something new that we
services
haven't mentioned yet.
sometimes can lead because it
um,
can bring in more revenue than a loan,
Generally,
especially if the client's a
as
non-borrowing
Ginger
client,
just alluded to, with
or
those other
they may
banking
save
types
it
of
the
services and
relationship
departments,
because, again, it is
treasury
because they're
management is
so
something
integral to the
they use to
everyday and
gain
every
visibility
financial
every single
aspect of
day.
what they
So
do.
that is something. So now you can assure that your customer is really
Absolutely. This is
literally
the
touching your bank
over
every
the
single day,
past
and that
60 to 90
interface
days,
becomes something
corporates
that they
or
rely
companies
on as a
have
relationship.
woken up
So,
or awakened
and we
and
talked
said,
about
wait,
relationships that bring
how many
30% or
what are we
more
holding in
profitability
balances?
over lending
Because we've been in
relationships
10
alone, and
years
that is a
of
huge
almost
number,
zero
by
rate
the way.
environment.
Um,
Um,
and
and
hopefully your bank
now it's
appreciates that, and
okay, it's
hopefully you
beginning
can
to
appreciate that.
catch people's attention.
Um,
They're beginning to
Anything
think,
that I've
well, if I
said
want to
at this
invest,
point,
how
Ginger,
do
on
I
this slide that you'd
invest?
like to speak to?
And
And I'm
that's
going to
where
again
having
pick
a
out just a
treasury
couple of
services
bullets on
partner
this
talking
slide.
about, well, you can earn this by leaving it in your account,
Yes.
or you can pay a fee and invest it
Yes.
overnight, and hoping the clients make that judgment call about and value um, um, evaluation of which one provides the greatest value for them at this time, and also talking about a roadmap so that as rates increase, other things that they may consider. Now,
Absolutely. And do you ever find, this opportunity to park deposits? I mean, it is a rising rate environment right now. Do you find any of your customers are looking for that? And again, Treasury can be the way in to do that, right? Right. Hmm. Right. Right. Absolutely. Such great points. Thank you.
More than ever,
And
clients are
what about your
beginning to
client?
think
What are they
about
thinking through all of this? I mean,
services that
hopefully,
in the
when
past
they
they
start
felt
to
were
see you
expensive,
in this light of,
and they said,
being
"Well,
this
they
bank
really at that
representative
time
of
didn't
this
see a benefit because
comprehensive
it was a cost
solution
benefit
provider,
analysis."
trusted
And
advisor.
now with the rising rates,
What
they're
are they
beginning to
thinking
think,
during all of
"Oh,
this?
time is worth more
A
money,
lot of times
and
they will start to think of you
stranded
as,
balances
again, Ginger
cost
talked
money."
about
And they're
being that
beginning to look at
call.
perhaps that
And not
lockbox
only is she
now
that
is,
for, people that don't
cost
necessarily,
beneficial because of the
haven't,
rising rate
want to
environment.
change
They
at this
don't
very
want to have
moment,
to borrow
but
if
for
they
her
don't need
clients
to,
that
but if they're
actually,
borrowing, they
are
want to
ongoing
minimize it
clients
as much
and
as
long-term
possible.
clients, they start to think of her as part of their business. And imagine that being in that
I, I
situation
absolutely
where
agree
you are
with you
now,
because
from the client's
um,
perspective,
a lot of treasury
basically
services
on their,
offerings
on their speed dial and as
include
part of
that an accountant
their
control
team.
so
That
that
I can't,
information is
state
passed,
that strongly enough at how
transactions are
important, how
processed,
strong of an
and
impact
that's where the
that
discovery
has.
of, wait, this
Ginger,
isn't
anything
a
you want to add
client,
there with
where are
regard
the
to what
expense coming
clients need to think
coming
about in
from?
terms of, or
Or
could start to think about in
let's
terms
look at
of
that again
this
because that isn't
mindset
a
set
vendor.
shift, with what Treasury
Where did
Management
that
has to
vendor name
offer?
come from? And so it's not that we don't trust our employees, it is that we need to set a fair and level playing field for our employees so that
Right,
we remove as much temptation as is possible.
right, right. Absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. And I think a lot of these solutions side things that are on this slide, I think we've talked about in some capacity. You know, I think again, the risk management and mitigating operational risk for them cannot be undersold here. Um, I've found, and from what I hear a lot, is that clients either don't think a lot about or don't want to think a lot about what could possibly happen on the risk side. And, some of that could be employee fraud. Someone who, oftentimes there are people in smaller businesses and in businesses, nonprofits, and um, academia, other types of environments where, you know, um, they put people in positions of trust, and certainly, 99.9% of them are certainly trustworthy and should be there. There's, sometimes that person who is, by the way, they look, very much like a very educated person. They are, generally 30 years or older. They are, they have almost exclusive access, excuse me, to the systems and to the money that flows within the company. These may be the people who could fraud, perpetuate fraud for your business, because their actions are unchecked. And having treasury management in place truly is a way to lock some of that spend and that opportunity down. things that you're seeing, Ginger? Am I underestimating that risk management has become, not only a hot topic, but truly a trigger for a lot of this? Yes, right, right. No, right. It's a really good point. Right. And the same goes with corporate cards and, being able to lock down access to, what the types of things that can be purchased or the types of vendors that credit card or that corporate card is eligible to be used at. So, that's just one type of fraud that can be going on. I mean, certainly cyber fraud and operate other types of operational risks go on and can be are perpetuated. But thinking about treasury management and and having your clients view your bank differently because you were able to mitigate some of those things or give potentially, how about this, give your client the peace of mind that they want, whether they admit it or not, and they deserve. So that is a mindset shift. So now we're going to play a little game, I guess, of looking at things. These are things certainly that I haven't heard from one particular person, but having been in this business for, I don't know, the better part of 20 years also, Ginger, but we won't say the good old days. Um, I will say I've heard some of these things from many different people over the years. And these, those of you who are on the call and listening in, these are some of the things that may be impacting whether or not treasury management is already part of something that they do or they incorporate into their solution today. So why don't I read through a few of these, Ginger, and I'd love to get your input. My focus is on achieving my goals. So in other words,
Well,
this is
because
about me.
we're all
Why should I be
corporate
thinking about
citizens,
everyone else here
we're
at my
all,
bank, my
and as a
my
result, we are
colleagues?
invested in our clients. And if we do what's right for our clients, our our, our
We are,
organization will be successful, and we will be successful.
right? Right. I love it. I love it. Um, what about that feeling of, hey, listen, I'm a generalist. I'm a branch professional. I'm a
And
business
well,
development
and I
officer.
would say
Treasury management is
absolutely,
just
it
one of the
is
products
all
that I need to
treasury
sell.
management is
What,
part
how
of the
would you how would
toolkit.
you negate that?
And the subject matter experts are there to help
Yes.
you maximize your
Yes.
relationship with the client and the associated fee slash revenues. Sometimes it's appropriate to involve treasury management, sometimes it's not. But I think setting the stage with both the client and treasury management about what the ultimate goal is for the meeting, for the discussion, is really critical. For example, I don't think there's an opportunity today, but I want to lay the groundwork so that they know when they're ready, we already have that offering. So, or want to share with them education because I'm looking to establish better credibility for our
I love
bank
it.
with them. So, it's it's a matter of a toolbox and properly setting the stage for discussions. I think it takes a village, and we are all part of that village. And if
Love it.
we
Thank
can
you.
involve someone
Um,
else in a discussion, it
this is the
may be the
consummate problem
short
we all
term
have,
won't work,
right? I've got
but
too
the
much
long
work
term it
and
will
no one
be
to help
less
me.
work because we
So,
have
this is just
partners
something else I have to do.
supporting our customer with us.
It does.
Well, it's not a matter of having the in-depth knowledge
That's a
because
really
that's why we have
nice way to
Treasury
think about
Service
it.
partners,
Absolutely.
but it's having
What
enough
about being,
knowledge
I'm a
to
loan expert, or
recognize
I'm
that a
a product
discussion needs
expert
to
of some
occur
sort.
and that there may be
Why do I have to
opportunity.
broaden my horizons to incorporate all of the complexity that treasury
And
management has to
uh,
bring?
what we see is that 8 out of 10 times the loans won't come
Aha,
unless the complementary services are also available.
perfectly said. Thank you, Ginger.
It can be. And I think it's important to
My
acknowledge
bank
that
is
there
looking for
are
loans to
parts of
drive
Treasury management
relationships.
that are complicated. Again, that's why partnering with someone who can have those in depth discussions when necessary. But overall, Treasury management is
There you
fairly,
go.
fairly
I
straightforward.
love that.
We're
Thank you.
managing the
Treasury
inflows,
management
we're
is overly
managing the
complicated.
outflows with the information to help a company be successful. We are cash flow focused. Yeah, on us. And that's where partnering with the subject matter experts are really important because your treasury management partners need to have that feeling of ownership as well. And that's where meeting
I love it.
before a
I know. I love
client
breaking it
meeting
down,
is
just
really
like that
important. I
model, and
think that's
certainly
where
the way you
call
just described it.
preparation
So
and
it can
that's
be,
where a
it,
working
thinking
agreement
about it might be
is
very
critical
complex,
to
but
the
when you think about
success.
it in terms of
And
those
that
very
gives
simple inflows
the
and
lender
outflows,
a better
it
feel
becomes much more
for
simple.
how that person
What about
works,
for that
how the
person that
treasury
would
management
say,
service person works,
that has that
and the treasury
ownership
management
feeling,
person is
and
given the
says, if
opportunity to
something goes wrong
understand
with
the
the client, it's
expectations.
on me.
And they should be comfortable enough to say, we need to bring someone else in
Ah,
to make sure the
yes,
client's satisfied. And there will always be people in every organization
right.
that are transaction focused. What's what I think is
Absolutely.
helpful is to have a
100%. This is so
conversation
great. Good job,
about,
Ginger.
I understand how
What
people
about those
lead, but what are you going
situations
to do with
where,
these leads?
perhaps the treasury
What can
management
my
officer is new?
expectations be? And having
The
a candid
person on the other
conversation
end
about that's not
of
how
our
I
webinar
approach my
today says,
clients,
I don't have
you
trust for
know?
that person.
And so it is that
I haven't known him very
symbiotic
well, or we haven't worked
relationship of
together
we're
very
all
long. How do you
measured
negate
on
that?
calls and focus and new relationships, but establishing the understanding about what
Right.
you want for your clients, and if it doesn't fit with their approach, then we can pause, shall we say. And I kind of put the responsibility on the treasury management. um,
I love it. Absolutely. And then, occasionally there are those relationships where, over time that, the treasury management person might have a bad reputation for, they're looking for leads all the time. Mhm. Mhm. Right. Absolutely. I like that. I like that. I mean, really, it is. That's discussion about goals, and absolutely, we have goals. You have goals. Our clients have goals. We need to be working together on this. And by the way, I don't have time to be sourcing all of I'm not here to build your business. We're here to work together. So I love that response. So now on the flip side, again, these are
reps
certainly not
shoulders,
things I
and
ever heard
that
from
is they
Ginger,
should
but I'm
be
putting you in the middle of this
visiting
slide
with our
because
lending
these are
partners and
things
asking
that I've
questions
heard
about what are
again,
they
as I
working
cross
on,
the
what are they
country.
doing,
Some are
because
very positively
our
viewed and
the
some
RMs
not so
do have a
positive.
lot of
Um,
offerings.
Why don't I
and
start
they're
here?
going to, and it
You
is
know,
only
it's
human nature
basically
to
what we're
do what
doing
is
here is
easiest,
hearing from
fastest,
the Treasury
and the most
Management Services
lucrative.
officer on the
And
flip
it's
side
up
of a
to the Treasury
relationship
persons.
that,
Um,
you know, and
it,
what they would
it
think
should be
or
one of their
say
goals
to
to
someone
say,
who's
Treasury
in,
management
you know,
may
the
be
role of
more
who our
complex.
attendees here
It may
today.
take
You know,
longer. It may
you
not
basically,
have
you bring
the
me in way too late into the
initial
conversation. I mean, I
glamour
would have
of
benefited
a
a
loan
lot more if
closing
you had brought
or
me in
swag
earlier and
or
I would have
something
had
else that
the
a client
opportunity to
needs.
hear, you
But
know,
it
what
will
goes
be
on at the
here for
business, some
6
of those
years, and I'm
operational
here to take
challenges
care
that
of the
that client
details.
has. You know, things that now that I have to
But
go back and ask questions
our
again,
shared
how
clients
does that
aren't
reflect on
receiving as
me?
much
Your
attention
thoughts on
because of
that,
that
Ginger?
preference. It's up to us to say, or the treasury management person to say, is it okay if I'm calling on these clients
Okay.
alone? Can I
Okay.
broaden the relationship and then make sure we're keeping them informed of what we're doing and how we're doing it? So providing the
Right.
relationship part, enough information so that they feel informed,
Yes.
but, really handling the details for them. That's a senior management perspective. If that's the senior management direction that they're going in, it is what it is, but it's tenacity and
Sure.
continued conversations and thinking a little bit outside the box of how we traditionally or our organization traditionally approaches customers. That may be, can I call on them myself? That may be, give me just 20 minutes of your time.
Right.
And it may be, I thinking of a way
I
that
love
we
it.
can help them achieve
Good.
their goals faster.
Um, well,
So,
I think you just sort of wrap this next one into that as well. I mean, he chooses to
yeah,
work with
go
other,
ahead.
other treasury management officers over me. So, you know, in an environment where there's, you know, multiple offices potentially for a bank and, you know, maybe across different geographic markets and things, you know, sometimes that does happen where people just click. People like to work with people they like. What happens in that situation? Right. Right. Communication. Right. Yeah.
That's where it's up to the
I love
treasury
it.
management person to
Good.
approach their own manager,
Um,
senior
what
leadership
about personal
to
goals
say,
getting in the
this is
way
what's
of
happening,
longer term
and we all
relationships?
need to share in the wealth.
So
We
things
all have
like, you know,
situations
sometimes
where
goals
the treasury management
in
has
the
been
larger bank aren't
um,
necessarily
a
aligned
value added
to
service
bring
that's
those
very
that symbiotic
inexpensive,
relationships together, but
and
rather
and
incentivize you
it's
know,
it's
individuals for
presenting the
doing their
case of a
job well, but not
win-win.
necessarily as a team.
Is there a way to say, to
It
reward for
is.
the time spent? And that really, it's one approach if none of my time is involved. It's a totally different matter if I have spent a lot of time on a relationship and at the end of the day there's no value, because it should be a win-win for everyone within our organization, and it's my personal senior management and leadership who work to make that done, because we all have those situations, especially when we're working with local and state
And
government
yeah,
entities
absolutely. And
or
I would add too,
not-for-profits.
I mean, why not push back on your manager or your manager's manager to say, you know, maybe you start to set the stage by asking if you can have joint meetings
Or is this
together, you know,
relationship
success
so
meetings
important
where
because of
you
all this
talk
other
about what success
ancillary
you've had with
business,
clients and start to
but we can't
celebrate
have all this
and
other ancillary business without
celebrate
treasury
those
services?
business partners across the bank and
So,
say, you know,
and
look what this
that's
person
where
did, and
finding an
you're sort of incentive or
innovative
your
way to reward
I guess
all
you're
the team members who are
awarding
supporting the
good
relationship
behavior,
is
right?
really
And then you
important.
start, and then that
That's
culture starts
because I
to
think we have to be
catch
a
on,
combination
and
of
it feels
both.
like you can empower that person even a
And
little bit more
um,
to push
while
back
a
on,
relationship
hey, these goals
manager
might be a little
may
outdated,
find
or
leads,
perhaps
it's a
these
matter of
goals weren't
having
in place
enough
when, you know,
information
in this
to
particular
turn it from a
environment.
hunt into
Right?
a farm.
Am I way off
And
base, or is that something?
I just think it's a combination of
Okay.
the two. Our
I think
some
that's, well,
strengths can
thank you.
be
I
farming
like being right,
and
but
not
thank you.
hunting,
I
but we
appreciate
have to
that.
have a little bit of
Um,
hunter in
so
order to
what
really
about in the
reach the
case
farming
where,
standpoint.
this happens a lot. I
And
hear this, and
yeah,
it does make me a little bit sad, because I feel like Treasury management is not given the value that it deserves when, either as part of a package deal for a client, that Treasury management gets zero priced
technology
or
is changing so
highly
quickly,
highly
and
discounted, let's
unless
just say,
that person
or
is
that
spending
a
consistently
a
time
relationship was put
learning
in
about
place, and then
enhancements and
over time,
changes, and
other
because
people at the
we
bank
all
might start
discontinue
to say,
offering
"Oh, that person
services,
was
and
put in
there's
the wrong
nothing worse than
product,"
someone
and
going out
all of a sudden they're put
and
on
quote selling a
a
great service
a, a
that
consumer
but didn't
platform or
know that's
something,
going
and
to be
then things are just
discontinued in
zero, things are
120
just
days.
horribly underpriced, and now
So
you're
that's
affecting the
where
Treasury
really
management
having
officer's
that
bottom line.
subject matter expert um, involved makes a
Right,
difference. It allows us to avoid embarrassment.
right.
In a lot of ways, it's like lending. Depending on the market, that we're limited in the type of loans that we can provide, and so
Yes,
it isn't sexy, but
yes,
with a lot of the technology changes, and it depends on the client, we
yes.
see eyes light up and we hit that nerve, and that's the goal for all of us.
Right, right.
We're not placing ourselves in the middle. We're here to augment and make sure that the relationship can be as good as it possibly is, because what we each don't want to find out is that we lost an opportunity because we thought we had a great rapport, but the client was actually talking to someone else, and so a nice piece of business has gone to a different bank.
Oh, very good point. Absolutely. And oftentimes, I mean, we can say that. A lot of times, a municipality, for example, truly
Relationship that is
in their
like that.
policies, they have to go with a provider
I
that,
think all
is really
no
looking for the
relationship is
lowest
cut and
cost. And
dried,
that
and
does
it's
create
always
a lot
leaving the
of
door
internal
open
pressure
so
to bring
that
that price
different
down.
types of
So,
relation
there are,
discussions can
and there are
occur.
other
One of the
types of
things that
organizations that are like that as
historically
well.
I will
So,
say
and
to a
then
new
over time,
client, or
they have to go out to bid
say
at
an
certain intervals,
inexperienced
whether it's
client, is
2 or
I'm here
3,
to
5
share
years.
information. You
And
may not need the
again,
service
they are in
today,
a position to
but
try to
as
always
your
find
business
the cheapest
develops,
provider. But
grows, expands, I
yes,
want you to
that
know
internal
that we
struggle,
offer
it
it,
needs to be a
so
conversation
that
that's
when it's
ongoing. And,
right, and
hey,
that
do we as a bank, does this
exactly,
fit our
and that
service
as
model? Is this something
you
we want to
evolve,
continue to
you
do?
know that
I.e.,
we
is it
offer
losing
more than
money over
just what
time?
we're
So
discussing
all
today. And
conversations.
I'm glad to meet with you on an ongoing basis to continue to have these type of discussions. That's what establishes
Right.
credibility. That's what enables us to move beyond
Good
a
point.
transaction with a customer and become a relationship and a trusted advisor.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Okay, so what about a few of these other scenarios here? I don't know if we talked about on the previous slide about not knowing someone well, but trying to gain that relationship and set some boundaries and set up standards for how you're going to work together. What about to the treasury management officer who would say, "I'm a farmer. I'm a better farmer than I am a hunter." What would you say to that person? Yes, and yeah, and what we're talking about is, is it, it's selling versus that ongoing nurturing of a client. But yes, that the combination of those two is what makes a treasury management sales officer successful, and more successful is the ability to do both. And I couldn't agree more. And to again give back to that symbiotic relationship of the people who are on this call and the folks that are they're supporting on the treasury management side. What about those business partners who perhaps are a little, maybe overzealous and are going out and maybe negating bringing out the treasury management sales officer because they do have a good understanding of the products and services, but perhaps not in the best way for that relationship to move forward? What do you think? Right. Great point. Right. That's a great. Yes, absolutely. That's a great way to put it, and it's quite frank. So, what about those people who feel like they're competing? And you did address this on the last slide a little bit, but competing with the other business lines at the bank, because again, maybe treasury management isn't at first as lucrative or as at first as sexy. What do you say to that? Right. I love it. I love it. A few of these others are repetitive to what we've already spoken about. What about, hey, I've got this. Our client and I have a great working relationship. We don't need extra bankers putting themselves in the middle. Yeah. Right. Right. I love that. And as you're talking, it's reminding me of another situation that perhaps those of you who are on the line in a branch banking position. Sometimes though there are people who feel like they're not allowed to offer services at a particular level, or that they feel like they are order takers. A client comes in and says, I really would like I was told I need a lockbox, or can you get me a remote deposit capture? And the relationship goes no further. It's sure, let me check that box and here you go. What type of things would you say to that person? Okay. 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 Right. And that we're here for you. We're here for you. We want to grow with you. Right. Love that. Well, that's a great way to end this slide. That's for sure. Thank you, Ginger. So coming together, Ginger mentioned this in several of those bullets as we walked through, but I would say that if you're struggling with um, being that comprehensive business solutions provider, trusted advisor at your bank, and having and developing those relationships internally with your business partners, there are some ways to have discussions and, you know, bringing people together over coffee or dinner, or lunch, and having a nice conversation and talking about, what are, I can guarantee you, as if there might be a rift in the relationship, what are those points? There's always something. What can we agree on? Well, one of those things is we want to do our job well, and we want our clients and our bank and other constituents to succeed. That is what we can agree on. So from that, we can build a relationship, and we can start to build rules, or I guess rules of the game as we move forward. What types of things are you willing to consider? And these are conversations, is it regular meetings, just as Ginger mentioned previously? What are the rules of engagement? How can we continue to make sure that our relationship is successful and that we're doing the best that we can do for our clients, our collective clients, and for the bank, and for ourselves as we continue to grow our careers? And how do we move forward and work well together? So, I've got a few points on the next slide to make it a win-win. And, celebrating success is certainly one of those things, and making sure that your championship from above, it puts you on a level playing field. If there are goals that you find that are incredibly short-sighted, outdated, have not been reviewed or put into practice, I think that those are conversations you can have over time with your boss and with other people. But generally, celebrating success and making people feel good are ways to get the attention, instead of being a squeaky wheel, to the folks that you need to address those types of larger situations with, that are rules and goals and perhaps policy
And
based.
this
So
falls under,
I
how does a
can't enforce
business
enough
partner
that
like to
building a
work?
true
What is
business
their work style?
partnership
Is
is
sharing
something that you
information is
should be
good, and this
doing on an
dovetails
ongoing
into
basis.
making
It's not a
hamburger look
one-time
good.
event,
What
but
is,
modeling
are we
behavior
comfortable with
is,
with the
again,
customer on a
something
credit
that
basis?
is
Is
incredibly
it
important. If
exploratory as
you
we
show
want
up
to
on
avoid
time,
any
that's
services
something
that
that
may
you prove is
require
important to you.
non-loan
If
credit risk
you continue to
underwriting?
reach out
Um,
and are
is
doing
there
so in an
something
open
unique about the
way,
industry that
with an open
that the
mind,
treasury
that's something
services
that
person may
would
not
be
know about the
returned. That
industry?
favor would be
Just
returned
sharing
on
those
on
little
the other
things
side.
enables them to look informed in
Professionalism,
front of the
in many
customer, and that
capacities,
in turn
always
makes you look
welcome.
good because you
Bringing
brought the
business to
treasury
your business
services person to
partner,
them.
Ginger mentioned that symbiotic relationship. Um, Getting to the brass tacks of, how does that business partner like to work? What is their work style? Are they, do they tend to be a really early riser? They're into work by, 7 a.m. Perhaps you can meet with them on their schedule, something that makes them feel important. Sometimes they people like to have those types of meetings before their actual business day gets started, so it's not interfering with their client time. And making your business partner feel or look good. And what I mean by that is, promoting them to their boss and saying, you know what? John really did such a nice job of working with me on this particular client. And this is what he did to help me and to help the client. I was very impressed. Those types of things will always put you in a great position in the mind, in the eye of your business partner. And then help him or her to help you. Let them know about how you work, and what your philosophy is, what your approach is to your clients, the types of things that your strengths and weaknesses, and how they can complement you is important. Ginger, do you have anything to add there? Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Right. So important. Absolutely. That pre-call prep cannot be understated. And that's certainly, being on time, being prepared, having meetings that are, have an agenda and that the client has participated in putting that agenda together in terms of what the objectives and the outcomes, that everyone wants to achieve. So important. And then that follow-up after, or at the end of the meeting to make sure that everyone knows that they're responsible for and, and what the next steps are. So important, Ginger. Thank you for stating that. So we just want to remind you to, there's so much that needs to be done to bring the best to your client. Certainly some of those things we just mentioned are part of it. When you think about all that it is, you probably don't think about this, by the way, all of the things that you need to know and that you bring with you when you're at a client meeting. And not all of that is knowledge-based, by the way. Relationships are built on, certainly, again, we like to do business with people we like. So again, it's that balance of bringing all of your experience, your knowledge, your talent, the things that you've learned about your bank, the things that you've learned about your customer, the industries that person works in. Certainly, having those discussions with your colleagues, but balancing that with the relationship that you've formed with this client and being able to deliver all of that's in your head, whether you acknowledge it or not, each and every time you're meeting or picking up the phone or even writing an email or sending a text to your client, maybe, is balanced by this relationship that you've built. And that needs to continue to, you have to foster that. That's that farming piece that we've been talking about. And that is something unique to you that you bring to the client. So, and that is most likely what they appreciate you for and why they choose to call you over others. So I like to make sure that you know how special that you are as you're going out there and all of the special talents that you have.
All the key
So to recap, if
of
we
what
may,
makes someone
there's so much to
successful in a
recap here,
client's
but
eyes, and if they're
basically,
successful in a
I
client's eyes,
can't encourage you
then our
enough to
organization is
take,
successful.
kind of throw away the 2018
Thank
or
you.
2017 mindset that you had to approaching your role and your job and your bank and your clients, and throw that away in favor of being in a position of this, thinking bigger, owning the relationship, being client focused, bank focused, partner focused, and that's business partner focused. Taking that comprehensive client relationship, truly using that as you're going out into the marketplace and bringing the whole bank to the client. Placing the client experience, not just client services, client experience first, and making sure that your clients feel valued and that they know, the value that you bring as a person and as your bank to them, and that they can trust you to be a partner and a trusted advisor to them over time, and that you could be that person that they call whether or not they do business with you today or not. And certainly being known as a trusted advisor is very important. And we talked about the skills and the characteristics that go along with that, the communication skills, the leadership skills, and making sure that you are the person that they call and they want to call because they trust you. Solutions based instead of product focused and product pushing. You don't want to be labeled as that person who's out there just selling a loan, just selling a product, but rather you're the person who goes in, understands what that client is looking for, looking to do, what the challenges they have on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual, quarterly basis are, and you can now superimpose, bring all of the bank for that client. And by the way, you probably know a lot of things about that client, whether it's through their usage habits and other things that others don't know. They probably don't even know themselves. So those are other things that you can bring because you are a partner in that relationship. And then truly, own the fact that you are representing the bank to the client and in the marketplace, and remembering that that's the promise to all of the constituents, whether they are your client today or they're not. So your behaviors and the way that you represent yourself and the way that you are an expert, and you go out and approach people who might be interested in what you have to say, and certainly the ones who want to hear more about how you can help them. And that is how I would end today. Ginger, do you have any closing thoughts? Right. Oh, well, thank you. I do. I agree. When you position your clients to succeed, you do succeed, and that those things are not mutually exclusive. They can work together. So, selling more in 2019 and beyond, thinking bigger, long-term strategy, comprehensive approach. I would, you know, I would suggest that you use the next few months. It's only, and to set the foundation. It's, the year is 12 months long. You've got plenty of time to do this. Set the foundation, put a plan in place and put it in writing before you put it in place, actually, and then share it. Mull it over with some of your business partners and make sure that, they are part of your plan, and let them know that. Make that plan include things like, who you're targeting, what you're ultimately, who you're targeting, what you're in terms of your clients, your market, your revenues, the solutions that you offer, and the time allocation of all of those things, whether it's, servicing versus selling, and that type of thing. Map your, aligning your goals with your team and your business partners is so important. Holding others accountable, and being accountable to others, and making sure that they know that you have goals and how you've met those goals. And then products and partners will change over time. Ginger alluded to this. This is not a static environment. That's what we love. We love to work in this dynamic world, but your mindset must be shifted, and it must be consistent. So in other words, you must have those longer term approach, and that comprehensive approach to continue to win and sell more in this year in 2019. So with that, I'm going to wrap us up, and I'm going to flip through the last few slides. And if you should need any support, I am here. You can reach me through my website, which is listed here at turningpointcommunications.com. And we do have ongoing learning opportunities for you, whether it be by webinar, just like you're here today, or in person seminars as well. We have sales, treasury management specific sales training, which, as you know, is very unique in its relationship and consultative approach. And we have a great, very accoladed program, a 2-day program that we have available, that we have open twice a year, once in the Boston area, once in the Dallas area. And certainly we can come to specific banks by appointment at any time. And sell more webinars like this one. And we have a new offering, which is a day in the life of a treasurer, where it's empathy training for those behind the scenes business partners of ours, that back office team, the implementation, product people, go to market folks, that has been incredibly successful and well received. So, and the 15th of every month, we offer our Treasury team industry insights, where we take a very deep dive into those industries, like Ginger did with us today, looking at retail. We are speaking with practitioners from those particular industries to walk us through what their goals and challenges and perspectives look like, and what their ideas for and ideals are for the coming years. And so we invite you to all of those, and we would love for you to join us in the future. So with that, please do. We can only do as well as we know that you think that we're doing. So if you wouldn't mind taking part in an evaluation, we have that available, and that is that URL is listed here. And you can certainly call us at any time, or visit us on social media or at our website. Thank you again, and it's been a pleasure working with you.
Bye.
Thank you, Ginger. We appreciate you, Ginger. Thank you. Bye.